it's a new day and we are back working on our raised panel fireplace surround.
Yay!
How excited are you to get that knocked out this weekend?
I'm ready.
Me too. So we're getting ready to put the big piece in above the fireplace. So we got 2 more rails that need attached, and then the big panel will slide in between. So we're actually going to do that down on the floor just like we've been doing the other ones. We worked a couple nights this week and got the side panels glued together, so they're good to go. So we're just going to lay them down on the floor and get the big panel placed. Go ahead and get it all glued up, let it dry, and then we'll stand the whole thing up as a unit. Sound like fun?
Should be easy.
Yeah, it should be easy.
20 minutes.
25.
Okay.
Let's take a look. All right, so this is where we're starting out. We got our 2 side panels fully glued, ready to go. And we're just clearing some stuff out of here because we're actually gonna lay it down on the floor in here. That way we can get it glued and then just stand it back up without twisting or breaking anything. We hope. We just put the bottom rail in, and we made sure that the 2 side pieces were standing exactly where we wanted them and flush with the marble surround. And then we took the rail here, laid it across the marble surround, indexed it with both of the styles on both sides here, and then we put some pencil marks on there so we would know exactly where
It needs to line up.
needs to line up. So those correspond with the pencil marks on the style or on the rail itself. So that'll help us to know exactly where to put it so everything squares up nicely with the fireplace, right, babe?
Yeah.
So we're gonna go ahead and lay it down. We're almost done here. We got our mounting plate for our television bracket. We got that situated there. That's Tapcon to the brick.
We need to place some of these wires though, right?
Yeah, we got to move those wires just a little bit.
Yeah.
And get those ready to go
Separate
through.
these.
Yep, get those ready to go through. Drill a couple of holes in our new panel for our box and our wiring. That's gonna break my heart.
I know.
It's making that panel was not easy.
Are we sure we want a TV?
Yep, I think so.
Yeah, we kind of need it.
Got an eyeball cup full of coffee, so
You're ready to go.
ready to rock and roll. All right, well, let's lay this thing down and then we'll go ahead and get everything indexed again, glued together, and see how it turns out. All right, so we just realized that we need to do a little bit more sanding work before we put all of these panels together, because once we get them up, it's going to be a real bear trying to get any final sanding done when it's next to the marble. We definitely don't want to scratch that or mess that up. So right now I'm working on my stiles and rails. You can see there's just a little bit of a lip right there. It's so hard to get the stiles and rails 100% exactly the same. At least it is for me, a novice. I'm sure the cabinet makers in the audience will be like, dude, amateur. But anyways, yeah, I am an amateur. So what I'm doing is using my belt sander, and I've also got a random orbit and an oscillating sander to fine tune the joints, if you will. So I'm taking the belt sander right now because it fits nicely in between my raised panels. I don't have to worry about hitting anything there, and then I'm just knocking the edge down. So I'll do that, and you know, it's not much of an edge, but once you get it painted out, you'll see it, and we want it to be perfect. So I'm working my way up and down the panel here. I've got this one done already, and you can see how nice and smooth that one is now. So that won't show any sort of line or anything there. Same thing here, I just hit this one, and that's nice and smooth now. Of course, this is a coarse sandpaper, so I'm gonna have to come back through with like 200 grit or something to really get it nice and smooth and ready for paint. You can see a little bit of sanding marks there, but I haven't done this one yet, so I'll work my way back this way to the middle, and then I'll hit the whole thing with some fine grit sandpaper to get it ready for paint. Same thing up here. Gonna have to get this smoothed down. So I'm gonna work on that a little bit, and then I'll get the other panel out here, do the same thing, and then we'll be ready for final assembly, get that thing stood up and tacked in place so we can start making our side panels. All right, so using the random orbit sander, I hit it with some 80 grit after I used the belt sander. And then I just finished up just now with some 180 grit. So it is super smooth and just a real nice finish. I mean, these joints are perfectly smooth. And I went ahead and sanded down all the stiles and rails and the face on the panel. Now we're gonna prime these once we get them up, and we'll probably sand them again with some real fine sandpaper afterwards. These joints came together nicely. I mean, you can't see really any difference now in elevation between the stile and the rail. A few little dings in the board that I'll have to take care of. Not sure what happened there. So a few little dings. Have to get the wood putty after those before we prime. I'll get that sanded down as well. A few little tiny joints. So I may hit those with a little bit of wood putty too before I call it good. Same thing here. I mean, just a real fine joint there. Even though we clamp these things together pretty tightly, still have a little bit of a gap there. But anyways, looks great. So again, we're not concerned with perfection, but we wanted it to be as smooth as possible. We're not staining and polyurethaning this. That'd be super anal if that was happening. But because we're doing a painted finish, we're gonna get it as smooth as possible. Then we'll prime it, sand the primer, and do a couple coats of the final trim paint, and it's gonna look fantastic. So I'm gonna take this one inside, stand it up out of the way, and then we'll go ahead and do the other side, same thing, and then we'll be ready finally to do the assembly with the big panel and the two rails. So I finished the other side, and now I'm working on the big panel that goes right in the center. Figured we'd go ahead and give it a good sanding while we're at it. This one we had to join, and so we had a joint that runs right down through the middle here. So I wanted to make sure that I got that sanded nice and smooth. So it just disappeared. No sign of any glue or anything else. Just a nice, perfectly smooth joint. On this one I went, had 3 different grits. I went 60, 80, and then 180 for the final. I'm gonna use a fine grit sanding sponge and just hit the profile real quick just to make sure there's no rough areas on it or any burrs where it inserts into the stile or rail. And once I got that done, we're gonna go ahead and get it all glued together finally. Take a quick break for lunch, and then we'll get it stood up. It's gonna break my heart to drill a couple of holes in this panel for our wiring, but what has to be done. I guess if we stop using the TV there at some point, we can always break out the wood filler, patch it in and wood filler it, but hopefully it doesn't come to that. I think we're gonna enjoy having the TV there. It'll be nice for the family room and also to watch from the kitchen. All right, let me get this finished up and then we'll go ahead and get it put together. All right, so it's finally assembly time for the big panel. We've turned our 2 4-foot clamps into 8-foot clamps. We used a coupler right there in the center. So we could hook a couple more 4-foot pieces of black pipe to them. Pretty smart, honey, huh?
Very.
Gosh. So we now have 2 big old 8-foot pipe clamps, and we got all of our pieces ready to go. Yes, we're doing it right here on the rug.
May or may not be a good decision, but it's the only space big enough.
We do at least have paper underneath the joints, so when a little glue seeps out, it won't trash things, right?
Yep. We haven't gotten glue on any.
We've done pretty well so far. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get all of our panels and pieces ready to go, and then we'll apply some glue to the ends of our rails. Make sure our marks line up there so we know exactly where everything has to be situated. And then we'll be ready to clamp her down, huh, babe?
Yeah.
Woohoo! Get it clamped. We'll let it sit for about an hour or so. And then go ahead and remove the clamps, sand down the junctions there between the stiles and the rails, just like we did on the panels. Make sure they're perfectly smooth. And we're gonna go ahead and mark for some wires. Go ahead and drill for those while they're on the ground. We'll put some boxes in once we get everything up and situated. TV mount goes right there on that piece of plywood, which is tapped onto the brick behind it. And then we'll have a little box for 110, which is one of these wires. There'll also be a box in the top of the mantle, which will go right about there for plugging in lamps and Christmas decorations and whatnot. Yep. And then we've also got Ethernet cable, in case we got to plug in a smart TV or something, rather than running it through Wi-Fi. And then we've got a couple of HDMI cables. Those will go to the other side to the office. We've got some cabinetry going in over there. So those run around the corner, and that'll allow us to hook up some components like a Blu-ray player, digital cable box, etc.
We may or may not end up using them, we'll see.
May or may not, but at least they're there, and then we don't have to sweat it later on how do we get connected. They do make wireless HDMI connections now, but the speed and the quality is not as good as a traditional cable, so we plunked down for some high-dollar cable, and they're there if we need them. All right, hon, you ready to get this thing glued together?
Yes.
Let's do it. The big panel is together. Hallelujah. Looks pretty stinking good. Pretty stressful, wasn't it, babe?
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, we got it together. Got everything lined up. All of our marks line up. We got everything under good tension there, so it dries up nice and solid. And hopefully everything still fits when we stand it up later. If not, I have to do a little finesse work. I think we're gonna be okay there. I mean, we were real careful to measure everything and cut it carefully, sand it down, marked everything. So hopefully we'll just be able to stand it right up here, pull the wires through, and go ahead and put a couple of nails in place just to kind of tack it. And then we're gonna get started on our sides. We've already gotten our panels glued up. So we gotta take those out, cut those into 3, and then make our stiles and our rails. Both sides should be the same. So we'll do some measurements and make sure, but we should be able to cut all our stiles, all our rails, and all our panels at the same time. Once we get them all cut, then we can set up the router, start running them through. That'll be a big time saver too, not having to change bits and change setups 2 or 3 times. Right, hon?
Yes.
All right, so that's it for now. We're gonna let this one dry up, let it set for about an hour, and we'll pull the clamps off, and we'll go ahead and get it stood up in place. Very exciting.
All right, so we've maneuvered this thing up into place. Chris is feeding wires. How's it going, honey?
Okay.
We've got Grant's help. You can see him right there, his feet. Thanks, Grant. Yeah,
He's thrilled.
he is thrilled.
Actually, I think he's happy that this is coming together.
We all are.
He's tired of looking at styrofoam insulation like the rest of us.
Totally. All right, so we just got it in place, and Chris is putting some nails in just to kind of tack it up right now. We're just putting in a few to hold it into place, and then when we get the side panels done, that's when we'll really nail it. Wanted to have some wiggle room. It looks amazing.
It does.
Woo!
So much work.
I know, such a relief though. It looks gorgeous.
So much effort.
Let's see if I can get a shot back here. Oh yeah. Wow. So much better than that 70s all brick. Mm-hmm. With the wood bin next to it and the raised hearth. Oh.
Can't wait to do it before and after on that.
I know. People won't even believe it. I don't even believe it.
No, I don't either. It's gonna be amazing.
We got lucky.
It's going to be amazing.
How many hours of work do you think we've put into this fireplace? Between the demo of the brick and the making of these panels.
I don't even want to think about it.
Oh, a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
I'd say about 80.
A lot.
Each of us.
Yeah, it'll be fun to do some before and afters once we get everything all done and painted out.
Yeah.
And everything.
All right, that looks amazing. Good job, honey.
Yay, good job to you.
Thanks.
All right, so we're satisfied with where we're at on the big piece out front here. So we're gonna go ahead and start working on our sides. So right now I'm just kind of checking everything, seeing where, see if things are plumb, and making sure that we've got, you know, good surfaces to work off of. So just trying to get some measurements, and we'll go ahead and start cutting our pieces for our side panels. And then once we get those cut out, we'll go ahead and start running through the router and get them ready to start knocking together. So working right now on this side, trying to make sure everything is square and plumb. So let me show you exactly what we're doing just in preparation. All right, so as you can see, we've got our side panel here, tight quarters. So we got too much stuff stacked around here because there's no place to put it. Honey.
Right.
All right, so we got 2x4 construction on this side. And these are basically just nailers that are attached to the masonry. And the guys did a pretty good job putting this up plumb and square. So we're going to be able to build off of this for the most part. As you can see, we built in a 1-inch lip or 1-inch overlap on our panel. And so our next piece will just tie in right behind it, and that'll hide the joint on the side rather than having to look at it from the front. As you can see, there's a little bit more hanging over the top than there is at the bottom, so it's not perfectly plumb. I do think the boards, of course, you know, dubious quality from some of our mills ended up twisting and everything as they dried. This one's got a bit of a bow in it, so we'll just have to compensate for that. So just double checked the front of our panel here, put the level on it, put the 6-footer on there, and made sure that it's good and plumb. And we'll just measure off of it. You can see I did some drawings here when we were trying to calculate for our panels when we went out shopping for our wood. So I'm going to work off the top and use that based on our level to get our measurements for this whole big panel. So we'll make a cut list and then start cutting stuff out. Get ready to start running it through the router. So the sound of the router has been echoing up and down Woodmere Hollow. I'm sure the neighbors across the way are really enjoying it. It's an old nasty rainy day, but thankfully we've got a big porch to work off of, and we're having a lot of luck getting some stuff done here. As you can see, I got all my little pieces, all the rails run through the stile bit there. Here's the other panel. So I got all the pieces cut for both panels on both sides of the fireplace. I got them all pre-cut and now have run everything through our stile bit, which cuts the groove to receive the panel and rounds over the edge. Gives it a nice relief there. That's what it looks like when it comes right off the table. So, of course, you do some sanding and everything to clean up the groove and prep it, make it look good and everything. But just a real simple profile, nothing fancy. But man, it looks good when you get everything put together. The Craig router table and this Craig featherboard has been doing a good job. Got the old faithful Craftsman shop vac. That thing is ancient. My dad bought that brand new probably 30 years ago. But that thing just keeps soldiering on. Really helps to keep the dust to a minimum. So that's actually worked out great. The new Bosch router, love this thing. Variable speed, big power. This wades right through this wood. So got all that done. Gonna take a break, grab some dinner, do a few other little odds and ends this evening. I think I'll wait till tomorrow morning to get out our rail bit and our rail sled and start running everything through the router table there. I think I'll probably wait till tomorrow. It's getting close to dark here. I'm gonna go ahead and take everything inside. Don't want it to sit out here and get damp and twist or swell or anything else. But I'm tickled. We made a ton of progress today. Getting that big panel up was a huge victory.